Since I installed the smart string lights on my accidental purchase of a 15-foot Christmas tree, I've started to become a bit obsessed with Govee. In case you missed it, that episode then inspired us to deck the entire front of the house out with festive lighting over the Christmas period. But one of you guys left a comment telling me that I should move my attention to some of Govee's indoor lights, specifically their TV lighting. So I'm doing just that, but there was a problem. There are at least 3 current versions of Govee TV lighting currently, and the differences weren't massively clear. So I've got my hands on all 3 so I could suss out differences to help both myself and hopefully to help you guys decide if any of these are something you want to get for yourselves. So what are these? What do they do and how do they work? Well, in a nutshell, they're a really simplistic way to retrospectively add reactive ambient lighting around your TV that essentially takes what's on the screen and creates a lighting that seemingly extends the picture around the TV. Now, you may have seen the Philips Ambilight TV series that I'm showing right now on screen, with this type of technology built into it. Well, these from Govee are for the rest of us with different, more vanilla television sets. And the best thing is you can literally add these to almost any TV you have, providing the TV size is supported. In theory, you could even add these to super old TVs. And I was trying very hard to find an old, large CRT TV to test this theory on, but annoyingly, I couldn't find anything near me for a reasonable price. Seriously, they are like gold dust where I live. I remember when people couldn't even give these types of TVs away, and now apparently everyone wants them. And they're rarer than hen's teeth. But anyway, the biggest limitation is that all 3 generations of these TV lights, you need a TV bigger than 55 inches, which is annoying as hell because, believe it or not, I personally only use a 49-inch TV, simply because where our TV is, it's right next to a wood burner, and if it were any bigger, I'm pretty sure I'd be left with a TV that looks like it was painted by Salvador Dali. Anyway, unfortunately, people like me with smaller televisions are left dribbling over what people can actually do with their larger TVs. With that said, when I was discussing this very point with the team here at the Country Club, Ryan piped up suddenly and mentioned how he has a 65-inch television. So lucky for him, he's getting these after I finish with them, and I'll have to go back to a boring vanilla experience. Now, the way all 3 of these work is through a small camera that attaches to the very, very top of your TV, and then this is connected to the LED strips around the actual TV on the very, very back. The camera then reads the information that it can see on the screen of your television and then relays this to the LEDs on the back. So in theory, if the colour is red on the screen, you'll see a red ring around the television. If it's blue, you'll see a blue ring around the television. But what's super fun here is that if there's a mix of colours, the system will try and extend these colours outwards. So for example, if there's a dragon breathing fire, it will give you a bright orange glow to extend the fire in that corner of the screen. This kind of experience is super immersive, and I think it goes a long way in helping create kind of a cinematic experience within your home setup in a way that just other types of lighting can't do. So now you know what these actually do, let me run you through the key differences between them all, because on the surface it can be a little bit confusing. Now, let's go with the understanding that this one, the T1, is essentially the earliest model that Govee sell, and that the technology is a little older and more simplistic than the other 2. It's essentially the base model, and it does what it says on the tin. But what I actually like about this model is the size of the camera on the top is quite small, and it has no back on the mount either. You'll see why that's important later on. I will say this type of mounting might make it difficult, however, to mount on TVs that are particularly thin, or TVs that perhaps come to a very, very thin point at the bezel. But being the earliest in terms of hardware and not having all of the bells and whistles of the T2 and 3 Lite, it means that it's the cheapest option out there. And when I checked, it was on sale down from £109 to £59, which is a steal if you're looking for an inexpensive way to add this technology to your TV. Now, if you can push the budget a little higher, the T2 is definitely more capable than the T1, but it's also more expensive. This was also discounted though when I checked, down from £149 to £99, which I think is a relatively inexpensive way to get this technology still. But it's still a bit more than the cheapest option. Now this model has the most LED units on its strips, meaning that in theory you get more precise picture, but the accuracy is also down to the camera too. Fortunately, the T2 has an upgraded camera, and you can instantly tell this simply by looking at it. It's about 3 times the size of the T1. This, on top of a TV, can look a bit goofy in my opinion, but I have actually seen a few creators out there who have mounted this to the underside of their TV by using this as a kind of little weighted mount, weighted tripod, weighted thing. Now, whether or not this is an official way of doing it, that's up for debate, but I must say that I would prefer if all of Govee's TV lights had the option of placing the camera in front of the TV on the cabinet rather than mounting to the top. I just think it would ultimately look a little better in terms of aesthetics. But I do understand that Govee have made it this way so that it's a more accurate and consistent approach and relies less on the user to get the position correct, because it kind of just mounts it for you flush. Now let's talk about their newest model, the 3 Lite, because here's where things get a little bit confusing, and that's because the 3 Lite has some advancements over the T2, but also it misses some things out and is also cheaper than the T2. And I think I know why, but hold that thought as well. So, the main differences between the 3 Lite and T2 are an upgraded chip for faster performance, and Govee actually state that this is their most accurate model to date, and another reason for this is an upgrade to the fisheye correction, which essentially has led to a more accurate image processing colour matching. Now the unit itself has had an overhaul from the T2 to a much more sleeker design. I mean, if you look at them, you can see the difference is quite phenomenal. And because of that, I think it actually stands out way less when it's mounted to the top of the TV. However, I have come into a problem with the design that a small percentage of people might also experience. The design of the mount is a little restrictive because there is essentially a maximum width of TV that this will fit due to both the little lip and the hinge at the back that won't extend past this angle. That's the maximum it'll go. Now, for almost every modern TV out there, this won't be an issue, but of course, Ryan had to be difficult, and he's got a 65-inch Skyglass TV. Now, despite only launching in 2021, those of you who have ever used or even seen a Skyglass TV will know that they are at least 8.2 miles thick. Seriously, I haven't seen TVs this thick since 2001, and I have no idea why they're like this, because almost every other TV out there is super thin these days. It just makes no sense at all. Anyway, that is a rant for another day, because the Skyglass, this modern TV, is actually thicker than the bracket of the 3 Lite. And it meant that when it was sat on the top, it was sat at an angle that was unsuitable for this to actually work correctly. But being the tinker that I am, I designed and printed an adapter for the 3 Lite so that it can sit properly on top of the Skyglass. Now, I recognise not many people will have this issue, but if you do have a Skyglass 65-inch and you do want to buy a 3 Lite to use on it, then I will drop a link below where you can download the file for this 3D print and print it for yourself completely free. But if you do download it and use it, you better hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. Anyway, moving back to the other upgrades of the 3 Lite, perhaps the most important thing for me, and the thing that ultimately helps with the immersion, is the fact that it has both black bar detection and black screen detection. This means that in scenes where there are a lot of sections that are dark, unlike the other models of the Govee backlights, it's capable of switching off those LEDs behind the TV to match the dark environment, which has an incredible dynamic and dramatic effect. It makes it feel like things are really in the room with you. It's quite simply incredible. This is one of the main reasons that although it has less LEDs than the T2, I would still personally choose the T3 because it helps create a more immersive experience. Now, on some very rare occasions, I have noticed it displaying colour on areas where the screen has been black or at least very dark. But of course, while we're filming. I couldn't replicate this to show you. And I guess that's probably because it's been far and few between. It's possibly due to a faint colour on the screen that I potentially couldn't notice myself, or perhaps even reflections. But then again, the 3 Lite supposedly has a more advanced reflection detection to minimise this, so I'm not really sure. But for the most part, it's been a super solid experience, and the black scene detection has made a massive improvement over the other versions. Now, I mentioned earlier that the 3 Lite is cheaper than the T2, and when I checked, it was on sale down from £89 to 79 of the King's pounds, which, although isn't as high a reduction as the other two on sale, it does put it slap bang in the middle in terms of pricing. Obviously, I don't know what price these will be at when you're watching this episode, so I'll drop a link to all 3 of these lights so you can check out the up-to-date pricing for yourself. So you can check that out in the description. But I can hear you screaming through the device that you're watching on now, asking why is the 3 Lite cheaper, and why is it called the 3 Lite anyway, especially when there isn't a 3 heavy? Well, my guess is that the lower number of LEDs in the light strip meant that the cost overall can be brought down, even though technically speaking the 3 Lite is more advanced. But I fully predict that we're going to see a 3 Pro come out at some point with potentially more features, possibly with the same number of LEDs on the strip as the T2, but with the upgraded tech of the 3 Lite. Will it be worth it? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but all I can tell you is that the 3 Lite performs a fantastic job, and for me personally, I wouldn't bother waiting around. It's already a fantastic product, and now with that black segment detection, it makes it top of its game. There's not much else I would really want it to do to make it worth upgrading, other than perhaps being able to maybe mount underneath the TV. I think this is nearly a perfect product for adding immersion to your viewing experience, but the Govee TV lights do give you more than just a cinematic experience. A less talked about benefit, which I think is one of the most important, is that it provides less of a contrast between your TV and a dark room, which can help save your eyesight from certain doom. I mean, no one has done decades-long exposure experiments on the long-term effects of LED panels of televisions beaming light into your eyes for several hours a night, because essentially we're the experiment at this point. But let's get real here. It's probably not going to be a positive effect at the very best, and at the very worst, we're all going to go blind before we hit 60. But I do think that the Govee backlights go some way into help alleviating the potential negative effects by reducing that contrast. And as TVs seemingly get brighter and brighter and brighter, this is actually quite important. My own TV at home would certainly benefit from this being full array LED. Whenever there's a particularly bright screen where the majority of the image is white, I find myself squinting at the immense contrast created by the white screen on the TV in the dark room that I'm in. Having these light behind the TV casting ambience onto the wall creates more of a gradual contrast and takes some of that strain from my eyes. With that said, though, if your aim is to reduce the contrast on your television in dark rooms, the T2 actually would be better than the 3 Lite, because obviously it doesn't have that black shutoff. So it always displays a colour even when there is none there, meaning that even in scenes where perhaps one half is bright and the other is dark, the TV will still have a halo of light around it and not just an extension on the bright colours. Now, another benefit of these lights are that it pairs up to your smart home through the Govee app. Now, I've spoken at length about this app in my previous episodes on Govee Kit, but it's nice that I can build automations in and scenes to display on these lights, even when the television is off. And there really is a hell of a lot you can do within the app in terms of customization, even pairing up multiple types of Govee lighting to control the same scene on every single Govee light at the same time. It's just another great piece of kit to add to your smart home if you haven't already. But I guess to come to some sort of conclusion, I think that for the money, all 3 of these devices offer a bit of a wow factor. Everyone who's seen these since we installed them on Ryan's TV has been amazed with the overall immersion that they create. I think that the 3 Lite, although it misses a few things from the T2 which I like, is definitely the way to go if you want the latest and greatest in terms of the technology, especially given that it's a little bit cheaper as well. But if you do want the extra brightness, especially in scenes that are dark, the T2 would be where to look. But If the price is the sole driving factor, then the T1 over here offers some extremely good value for under £60 at the moment anyway. And although it might not be as good as the other two, it's still a great way to add this technology to your home setup. So what do you think? Have you already got something similar to this? And if so, what do you have? I'd love to know what you think of this type of technology, so let me know in the comments below, and I'll be replying to all of your message over the next few hours, so make sure you drop down there and say hi. And if you do enjoy smart lighting, make sure you watch our other Govee episodes, such as my review of the string lights, where I accidentally bought a 15-foot Christmas tree to demonstrate them. But other than that, guys, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon. Well, it's also a new year as well. I think this is the first video of the new year. Happy New Year!